And the more we focus on the doing, we miss the in-between. And the in-between all of our doing is when the magic happens. We miss that smile that crosses the kid's face. Or we miss the cat, playing it because we're doing. I've watched myself this week because I've been doing a lot of work around here, and, this cat just wants me to sit down. She just wants me to sit down. And I'm like, there are times where I'm just like, screw it, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit down and be in the moment with this new creature that just showed up in my life. I think it's really important for us to, when we first start out with the time thing, is to create a list of, what we're doing and where it's going. Just like our money, it's like creating a budget. It's interesting because, I'll feel like I have no time, but if I write on my calendar that I'm going to hang out with my grandson, I hang out with my grandson. If I don't insert it, I don't hang out with my grandson. Right? Now, that didn't mean I didn't, and in my mind, I didn't have time to hang out with my grandson, right? I had the same amount of time. Same exact amount of time. It's really important. Start writing things on your calendar. Yeah, good. Are you getting out of your house? Are you doing things? You're here. And yay. Yay. Awesome. Because that's something I have to do, right? Like I was saying, I'll have this week, I've got 2 businesses going. I'm going in every direction. It's like, I need to see my baby. I got this little grandboy. I mark him on the calendar, Otherwise, time, passes by and I don't see him. Another thing is, are there ways to consolidate your tasks? I know that, for myself, it was interesting that the more integrated I got and the more I was standing in my integrity, like I could do twice as much in the same amount of time. The whole object is to be able to do more, accomplish more by doing less, right? And, I'll find that I can, clean my whole house in a few minutes because it's just like I'm not running from one room to the next. It's like consolidating your energies. Because bottom line, women walk around like a soaker hose. We do. We don't walk around like a fire hose. Men walk around like a fire hose, right? We walk around like a soaker hose. Well, it's time to realize where those holes are and decide if you want them there. And if not, let's plug them up. So that energy can be funneled into something that's a little more productive. Because I think we all have, that time that just like twitters away, right? And then we don't claim it. It's kind of like those calories, right? That we say, claim our calories at the end of the day, right? And we're like, oh, well, I'm not going to count that, and I'm not going to count that. And, we conveniently, leave things out. It's the same thing. And I think that, do you have kids? No. Okay. We'll leave that one out then. No mommy's here. Because we do that to our kids as a society. Like then we, start them at age 3 or 4 in soccer or baseball or whatever. And push them and push them and push them and have every moment packed. And that's part of our problem as we grow up, right? We were used to being like that. I wasn't from that era, but, the younger people have lived their life with every moment crammed full. And bottom line is that kid going to be a soccer player when they grow up? No. Is that kid going to be a baseball player? Probably not. So, maybe they ought to have a whole bunch of experiences versus spending every moment focused on one thing that in the end is just a waste.
On the flip side, you try so many different things, and I can say this about myself and my career. I've tried every career there is, and I can't seem to settle in.
But I want you to have a different look about that. Because in reality, because I'm that same person. So in reality, you're learning very quickly. So you're on an escalator, right? To stay in a same job for 50 years, you quit learning after year 2, right? You're just doing this repetition and repetition. I think that paradigm is very much shifting with our young kids. My daughter's already had 3 careers and she's 28, and very successful ones. She just learns it, gets it done, and it's like, all right, what's next? And that is, quit judging yourself. Because truly, like, Jackie and I have talked about this a lot because, we have been kind of skittering around from one thing to, well, we've been gathering this toolbox, right? You're gathering a toolbox for your ultimate purpose. So rather than worrying about all that, I'd be focusing on what am I supposed to do next? There are no wrong turns, just new experiences. And we came here to experience. We can't come here to swim in the same pond for 150 years. And that's kind of where we've been stuck as a society. Is you're considered a flake if you're not in the same job for 50 years. Well, you know what? I know people that are in the same job for now 40 years, and they are the most miserable human beings on the planet because they haven't learned anything new in so long. And their passion, compassion fatigue, like they're just absolutely burnt out and over it. And it's time for new blood to come in for the job too, right? So I think that in us staying stuck like that and clinging, because we are, that's what we end up doing. We're like, so miserable, but yet we're hanging on to the scenery so freaking tight, right? And in reality, let it go. Because the next thing, you're just going to learn a whole new set of things. And that's what makes joy in life, is learning. I truly believe that. Even though it's confusing and uncomfortable, in the end, you've accomplished something. You don't accomplish, you don't feel that sense of accomplishment if you're doing the same thing that you did 35 years ago, every day. I always think of my father, and, God love him. He was quite the individual, but he was brilliant. But he grew up very poor. He had a photographic memory, so he was kicked out of school at a young age because everybody thought you're poor, you're from the wrong side of the tracks, you're cheating. Because he had that kind of mind that he could just look at a test and just answer things. Math, without writing down the problem. That was him. So he was brilliant, kicked out of school in 10th grade, and spent his entire life at Chrysler turning the same screw. No wonder he was mean. When we aren't using our brains, they are using us. So I find, because I am my power animal is a rabbit, which is so typical, right? I hide in my cave, and I find that the more I'm in here and I don't get out and interact, the more my brain starts picking on me. And then you have to talk back and understand, okay, I've been walking around in this circle, around the circle, around the circle, I need to get out and go do something. There's action to have in every situation. And action creates change. I like to think about life like the GPS. If you don't get anywhere by putting in something ambiguous. Never. She's not going to speak to you at all. No. And she's not going to speak if you're not moving. Doesn't matter where you're moving. She starts talking. You can take a wrong turn, right? You just see something new. She's going to guide you back on course. God wants you moving. He wants you moving. He doesn't, I love, the line, I'd rather you be hot or cold. Lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. So he's saying there's no right or wrong. There's no bad or good. Just do something. Do something. Yeah. Have an opinion. Know what you think. Make that choice. Because if you don't know what you think, somebody else is going to think it for you. Especially as women, right? Somebody's always wanting to think for us.